First, I'd like to welcome Alex Gartmann. Alex is the CEO of the Foundation for Rural and Regional Renewal, the FRRR. Now, it's a really great organisation that's doing a lot of stuff, and some of the groups in this region have been working with fire recovery and flood recovery and a whole range of other activities. Alex is also on the Australian Landcare Council. So Alex is passionate about rural communities and creating opportunities for each community to prosper. Now, Alex also has another background from agriculture. She was the CEO of the Birchup Cropping Group and is currently chair of the CSIRO Sustainable Agriculture Flagship Advisory Council. Nice short organisation name. And a member of the National Rural Advisory Council, a board member of the Rural Finance Corporation, a member and the Victorian Women in Primary Industries Advisory Panel, and also the La Trobe University Bendigo Regional Advisory Board. So, and still found time to come today. So, thank you, Alex.
Thank you very much. It certainly helps that Tom was very persuasive on the phone. So thank you to Amber and Tom for nominating me to stimulate some thinking at the start of today. And it's fantastic to be back in a patch that I grew up in. I'm an Albury and Howlong girl, so my first foray into Landcare was actually with a couple of the well-known Landcare leaders near Howlong on Brocklesby, and started the Albury High School tree planting group, which is my first foray into trying to get people together to do something related to Landcare. And I have the benefit of having missed my mother's birthday last week and forgetting to ring her, that I get to see her tonight, thanks to the invitation to speak today. So thanks for helping save my family relationships. Now, the title of today's forum is The Future of Landcare, Looking Forward. And it's a fundamental question that is being asked by Landcare groups across Australia. But people outside of Landcare aren't asking that same question. They're actually asking, what's the relevance of Landcare? Especially in a really busy information world. Why would this group of individuals and organisations require my attention, my time, my commitment? So today I'd like to ask you to think about Landcare in the context of the Darwinian theory, survival of the fittest. And what's fittest? By fitness, I mean fit for purpose, for a marathon, not a sprint. Fitness of a Landcare group to survive the future. Fitness of our communities to survive the future. We know plenty of communities that have not survived. There's great plaques that say there was this community here, there was this school, there were historical markers. And we know that there's plenty of groups that are battle-scarred and weary. But Darwin also recognised that barring a cataclysmic event, and we can debate theories of the end of the world and major climatic disasters later on, but we'll leave them in the perfect storm category over here for today. There will be survivors and thrivers. Strong, fit, adaptive and transformative individuals, groups and communities will survive. Now, Landcare has been fit enough to make it to the 25-year mark, the 25-kilometre mark in a marathon. So what are some of the key factors that will make us fitter to survive the remaining component of our marathon? Now, reality for rural communities is complex and uncertain. There's the vagaries of weather, seasons and climate, of which we've had our fair share over the last decade, the myths and maze of marketing, the intricacies of intelligent input purchases and decisions, keeping and attracting and retaining services, volunteering for everything, getting to hockey training on time, keeping our gardens alive, staying connected with telecommunications. The list is endless. How do you prioritise that? The reality for many of us in rural and regional communities is having a plethora of information and advisors. There's banks, accountants, succession planners, agronomists, communication, Landcare staff, community development staff, business consultants, husbands, wives, neighbours, media, and your gut instinct or past experience. So balancing profit and risk for family, business and community is really the ultimate reality. And how do we get that right more than we get that wrong? How do we simplify the complexity and address the challenges outlined by numerous public personalities and intimately and innately known by those of us living in rural and regional communities? How do we live up to the iconic image of custodians of the land efficiently producing food and fibre for the world? Now, farmers and land managers are overwhelmed with information, all to be consumed now, adoption assessed now, the value of research assessed now, and then moving on to something else now. They're not alone. Policymakers, landscape managers, government are also all overwhelmed. So who do they trust? Who do we trust? Who do you trust? Who gives you information that's appropriate for your business and your purpose and your group? We all like to simplify things. We create sieves to keep the crap out, to keep the rigour in. For farmers, sieves are increasingly the consultant or the local discussion group or farm systems group or Landcare group. Farmer attention is scarce, so they're seeking information relevant in the current context and close to home, looking for the relative advantage of one decision over another. Not the best answer, but something that gives you the relative advantage. Ultimately seeking profitability and sustainability across the entire business and not just decisions related to growing a particular product in a particular season. And new information and practice needs to be locally validated and tested. Demonstrate it works, make sure it ticks off on the quadruple bottom line: environmental, economic, social and political. People don't adopt without good evidence and support. I believe Landcare needs the 3 R's, and not just because I'm from FRRR. The 3 R's for me are rigour, relevance and relationships. Rigour in knowing our capabilities, capacities and designing and creating projects that will have impact and influence. Relevance to ensure our actions are appropriate for the issue and the community. And relationships that inspire us to foster a network that builds on success and learns from our failure. In the reality of increasing complexity and uncertainty, partnerships, relationships, collaborations are crucial to developing innovation to meet our needs and aspirations. Now, how do you decide who to partner with? At BCG, the Birchip Cropping Group, we sought a partner that complemented our skill set, someone that had street cred and a reputation for delivering. A challenge is that we often know the locals, those in the same sector as ourselves, those with the same values and the behaviours as ourselves. So we don't think about partnering with those that we don't know or that we do not have an existing relationship with. But we need people to inspire us and who inspire communities to build their dream. We are all guilty of sticking with our favourite people, those that we've had good working relationships with in the past. And it happens easily without any extra effort on our behalf. 25 plus years ago, Landcare was the result of different stakeholders partnering with the enemy, NFF and the ACF. Could we do that now? Are we open enough and mature enough to create a relationship with the enemy? Now, I don't advocate for promiscuity, seeking partners for short-term progress. We should really seek long-term and multifaceted relationships with funders, critical thinkers, policymakers and doers. Together, we banter, analyse and critique innovations, products, tools, processes and logic, moulding and shaping great ideas to create a practice that makes good business sense and supports viable and innovative communities. Now, as anyone in a personal relationship will know, relationships and partnerships are never quite as rosy as I've painted them, but they do have enormous potential. Conflicts will always emerge. Having the personal relationships and organisational processes to deal with them are fundamental. And for Landcare groups whose staff have often had a high turnover rate and whose volunteers are on 10 or more different committees, that's a critical challenge. Our understanding of Landcare in Australia is missing a vital element. Although the environmental and agricultural outcomes have been well explored, the many other benefits of Landcare and natural resource management beyond those domains have, for the most part, been only anecdotally acknowledged. We, in this room, those intimately involved and converted already, know these but can easily dismiss them as the add-on benefit. Now, recognising this, the Australian Landcare Council commissioned an investigation of the benefits of landcare and natural resource management that exist beyond the biophysical domain. The project, titled The Multiple Benefits of Landcare and NRM, was established to extend the evidence base and to build on the further robust business case and investment for Landcare and NRM. And we're hoping to publish that soon once the Minister has ticked off on it. And given the timeline to September, that shouldn't be too far away. So what did it tell us? What are some of the key elements? Education as a benefit is well established and understood. There are a range of positive educational outcomes for individuals, for example, continuous learning and skill development, through to the broader community, spreading awareness and delivering innovation. Landcare and NRM offer both formal and informal educational mechanisms and often extended to areas of society that are traditionally hard to reach. The Friends of Narrabeen Lagoon, where Northern Sydney residents work to ensure the local catchment is properly and sustainably protected, highlights the potential reach of these educational benefits through its awareness raising, not only among the community, but also among policymakers, which actually resulted in legislative change. Social community health and wellbeing, a complex array of benefits, but a considerable array. Landcare and NRM not only provide an avenue for very real connection with the natural environment, but also lead to increased levels of social networking and participation. And any of you on Twitter, start twittering today about this conference. And both social networking and participation can contribute to physical and mental wellbeing. The agricultural and environmental outcomes of Landcare and NRM, a healthier living environment, also contribute to healthy individuals and communities. Mudgegonga fire recovery projects, thanks to the amazing work of the team, have demonstrated the capacity for Landcare and NRM to facilitate not only increased contact with the environment, but also increased participation in physical community activity and social connectedness with others, aiding in the disaster recovery. Political and social capital, a vital part of the social fabric of our communities and absolutely critical for future community fitness and prosperity. The dynamic social relationships and cohesion that develop through Landcare and NRM can form an intrinsic part of the social fabric, in many cases filling the gaps for the community beyond the agricultural and environmental domain. And the benefits, particularly for regional and rural communities, include enhanced social capacity and cohesion, stronger local governance, the increased recognition of women in rural communities, which has largely been brought about by Landcare, and the self-empowerment and fulfilment, although I have worked with a number of groups that said, don't empower me anymore. The naturally resourceful workshops run by the Queensland Murray-Darling Committee and Mitchell Landcare often had a profound impact on the way women operated. Sorry, technology means that I've just jumped a whole page ahead. Profound impact on the way women operated in their local communities and catalysed representational opportunities for workshop graduates on local boards, councils and a range of community organisations. Economic. There are a considerable set of numbers and useful to convert our Treasury friends. Landcare and NRM can generate an economic return in the order of 2 to 5 times the original investment. This economic benefit arises through access to labour, equipment, expertise and training, financial assistance and financial farming profitability. The scale of the economic return is also important, with Landcare contributing to individuals as well as regions, including Indigenous communities, and providing a framework for investment and support on a larger scale. In addition to increasing the productivity of the land, Web of Trees Farm Forestry project developed by the Otway Agroforestry Network demonstrated the economic benefits in the form of alternative and diversified source of income, as well as an increase in land values. Cultural benefits, increasing connections in new ways that are very old ways at the same time. There are significant benefits in connection with country for spiritual, social, physical and mental health, particularly in Indigenous communities. In some cases, Landcare has helped to maintain or increase existing connections, while in others it has created connections and recreated connections that existed prior to white settlement. The Friends of Narrabeen Lagoon case study in the report and the Roper River community group in a remote setting contributed to the preservation of and access to traditional Indigenous knowledge, but also to the understanding of traditional Landcare and NRM activity among the broader community. Now, ultimately, resilient individuals, communities and landscapes are the end state of the multiple benefits of Landcare. Resilience arises from these multiple benefits being evident, heavily integrated, interdependent and mutually reinforcing. And incorporate the many elements, key elements that research suggests enhance resilience, and it is a buzzword at the moment. Landcare promotes the formation of networks that allow communities to support each other and to provide services beyond the agricultural and environmental domain when faced with adversity. So my question is, are we mature enough? Are we experienced enough to leverage these multiple benefits in order to strengthen grassroots Landcare? Is experience important? The dictionary definition of experience is knowledge or practical wisdom from what one has observed, encountered or undergone. Knowledge is power. But we now operate in a competitive space, and attracting people to have that experience with Landcare is challenging. Why do we spread our intellectual and volunteer efforts so far and wide? Because we all want to have our own group, our own event, our own demonstration or trial, our own project. In Birchip, a community of 700, we had over 80 community groups. I challenge you to count the number of community groups in your community, even if they only meet once a year. In Birchip, that meant 240 president, secretary and treasurer roles. And we all know how easy they are to fill. And that's before you even ask for the doers from the remaining 460, which does include babies, kids and elderly. Even if there is only one meeting a year, that is 1.5 meetings per week just to have an AGM. At FRRR, we've been doing a lot of work on natural disaster recovery, and there are several phases of recovery that we talk about. There is the initial event. There is survival, regarded as a 1 to 6 month period. Endurance, 6 months to 2 years. The identity crisis phase, 2 to 4 years. From 4 years on, you're recovering from recovery. If we apply this theory of community recovery to a Landcare group, we can add, right at the start, the creation of Landcare. A unique partnership. It was widely adopted, resourced and successful. My first full-time real paid job was as a Landcare Coordinator in Western Australia. Every local government area had a Landcare Coordinator, funded by the federal government. Landcare is arguably Australia's most successful in innovation and export. But the loss of critical resources, the introduction of layers of bureaucracy to feed off this successful model, and changes in the world around us created an environment where Landcare went into survival mode, and to some extent is now in endurance mode. The future seems a long marathon, and fitness of groups and communities, due to all the things I've mentioned, are amplified. I believe we're also now in the phase, or could be entering a phase, of the identity crisis. What is Landcare now? How does it have relationships in the age of 140 characters? We'll find out this afternoon. How does it, or how do we, deliver consumable and relevant content in an ancient landscape? Individuals in the Gen Y community, which Ella is going to talk about, want a diversity of experiences now. Can Landcare leverage this age of brevity, which really is a symptom of busyness of our modern day lives? Imagine if we just combined a few groups and how much time that could save us. Complex interactions along the value chain influence the overall environmental, social and economic impact of change in agricultural and landscape systems. As farming systems become more varied and multifunctional, an example being the increased emphasis on carbon and biodiversity outcomes in addition to production and profit, and the processing and delivery chain also becoming more complex, farmers and land managers need improved tools to measure and compare change across the whole life cycle of goods and services produced. The end aim is a robust and well understood footprint in terms of carbon, energy, water, land use, life cycles, and people. Information that does not reduce the complexity and uncertainty is useless. Why? Because uncertainty is a major constraint on decision making. It results in either paralysis and conservatism, which is extreme risk aversion, so we just stick to what we know, or it results in desperate decisions and actions, extreme risk taking, adopting wacky ideas, following wacky people, love them as we may, as a way to find the solution. Uncertainty reduces the likelihood that we will be able to identify the optimal strategy for handling a situation before it eventuates, such as dealing with variability and change. According to some, uncertainty is the root of all fear, and uncertainty is the driving force behind the human desire to learn about the future and to develop strategies to reduce concern and anxiety. And a major cause and effect of uncertainty is complexity. The escalating number of factors and interactions that we need to take account of mean that we now live in this hyper-complex probabilistic system. Those words make your eyes glaze over. Complex systems mean you turn off. Add the complexity of groups and committees that our communities seem stuck on retaining. We need disruptive thinking to break our obsession with multiple single focus groups that rob us of time to start to deal with the complexity. Now, there are many responses to complexity, and you may recognise a few. Avoiding, delaying or deferring a decision. Government never does that. Taking steps to reduce uncertainty by gathering more and more information, but not actually applying it. Avoiding the complexity by reducing the decision to a simple or complicated one and searching for a course of action that's good enough. It'll do. Focusing on incremental measures rather than on those involving fundamental changes because it's easier and we don't have time. And seeking to reduce conflict of interest or perceptual differences through discussion with concerned people. That leads to the saying of all talk and no action, really. This goes for farming decisions and community organisational structure decisions. What is the identity and structure that will support us to transform and thrive? To transform to be capable in the new environment. If we want healthy industries in the future, we need organisations and information that assist decision makers, farmers, landscape managers, policy makers, by reducing uncertainty and complexity. This is a role for a fit Landcare group. Fitness also comes from diversity. Groups that embrace diversity, boardrooms that embrace diversity, and communities that embrace diversity are richer and fitter for it. Farm and land management will increasingly demand information for multiple functions. So being clear on the multi-benefits and not leaving them to others to claim and deliver on is a lever that Landcare can utilise. As is the design of how and what we do so we have consumable content. And remember, willingness to consume is in the eye of the beholder, in the eye of the consumer, not the seller. Marketing 101. The customer is always right. So who is your customer? Who is Landcare's customer? Who is right and who do we need to deliver for? I'm not saying that this is easy. Darwin did not call it survival of the fittest because it was easy. There will be casualties. Our maturity will determine if we learn and adapt from those losses. But we do have the innovation, we do have the intellect, the creativity and the commitment in our groups and our communities and in Landcare. Let's harness it, let's train ourselves to be fit for purpose and continue the amazing legacy that is and will be Landcare. Thank you very much.